Hello and welcome back to this video. Today we're talking about how Centrify provides support for domain and forest functional upgrades. In the previous two videos we talked about the tools that you have to be able to gather information, and in the previous video I started the process of upgrading or promoting my member server that is a Windows 2012 machine as a domain controller into a Windows 2003 forest, right? So the process has completed. The server rebooted, but I did capture something for you before the reboot, and is this. So notice that exactly what like I told you in the article. So notice that Windows 2012 R2 domain controllers by default will prohibit older algorithms, um, and you know at the same time CIFS compression is going to be enabled by default. So those are things that you need to be accounting for it. And if you're going from that particular from 2003 to 2012, skipping 2008, you need to be at least a 2014.1 version of Centrify agent. Um, so now let's take a look. So we should have a new domain controller here. Notice that I have them both. We are still at the functional level, but if I pick racing functional level, notice that I can't, because I cannot do this until I decommission this Windows 2003 domain controller. This is what maybe we're going to do in the next video. But now that we have a Windows 2012 domain controller in the mix, let's see how this affected the Centrify agent. First and foremost, we want to make sure that people can log in, right? So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this session, and I'm going to go log in as myself. I am an AD user. And notice that even SSO I was able to get, right? So that is working as expected. So let's take a look at what changed in the domain. So the first command I'm going to run is the adinfo -t is going to basically do connectivity tests against all my domain controllers. Notice now that instead of having one domain controller, I have two domain controllers, right? So I have now my 2K3 domain controller, and I have my Windows 2012 domain controller. Let's find out which domain controller the agent is working with at this point. At this point, it's working with the 2003 domain controller. If I wanted to test against it, I would have to use the DNS block parameter. So let's go ahead and do that. So sudo the DNS block parameter is very useful because basically that's what you use to tell the Centrify agent to ignore certain domain controllers, right? So this is good for DMC situations. Maybe the agent cannot reach certain domain controllers. You don't want that. So DNS block, and in this case it would be for Win2k DC 2k3 DC.dfl example.net. So gonna go ahead and press save. I'm gonna reload, and if I didn't make a typo, the agent already switched from the older DC, now is working with this DC because of the DNS block, right? So let's test again, and let's test authentication, right? So we're gonna duplicate this session. So the reason why I'm getting SSO is because PuTTY by default checks GSS API. So I'm getting service tickets. So I'm getting Kerberos SSO. I could disable this and just type in my password for those who don't like magic. So this will be on checking this box here, and this effectively should just prompt me. There you go. And here you have it. So authentication is working as expected. Let's take a look at the ciphers. So this will be, and I'm hoping I have it somewhere here. Yeah. So this is it. Let's take a look at the ciphers. So the ciphers are still the same, right? So we're still using RC4. So the expectation is that we should be getting higher level of encryption. However, this machine has not had to, recreate its key tab against the domain controller that actually has a higher cipher. So one thing that we could do is use the AD key tab command. Let's see. And the AD key tab command has an option which is to change password, right? So we can use that option to change the password of the key tab. So it will be a sudo AD key tab --. So I didn't specify a user. I don't even know the administrator password. So -u. And it changed now. So if I look at the key tab, let's see if I can remember which command is it. This will be a klis -kte and against the key tab itself. So this is where you have to be confident about this. Before, the ciphers were as high as ARC4, which is the highest supported by a Windows 2003 functional level. And notice now that we have entries for AES 256 and AES 128, which is the algorithms and the ciphers introduced back in Windows 2008. So that tells you that, uh, as the change of, for example, the KRBTGT password happened or happens when we go up on the domain functional level, we will be ready to decrypt or create random secrets based on those higher algorithms. This is actually pretty good, and should provide you with the confidence that slowly, as time goes by, I actually forced it because otherwise this video was going to take a long time. As time goes by, as domain controllers gets introduced, these ciphers are going to be ready for that. So now, I think that I may even be able to restart the agent. Let's see, sudo. So I'm doing this to see if I can get another service ticket or another TGT with a different cipher now that I'm talking to a different domain controller. Let's take a look. So still, we're working with RC4, but in the next video, what we're going to do is, this has to happen slowly. I'm gonna offline. I'm going to notice that who are the operations masters here. So if there's 5 FISMA roles that need to be changed. So notice the operations master is the the Windows 2003 domain controller for the RID, PDC, and infrastructure. There's also the schema and the domain naming master. So I need to transfer all the operations masters to the Windows 2012 domain controller. And once I make the transfer, I can decommission the old 2003 DC, and then I'm ready to raise the domain functional level, and we'll see what the effect is on the Centrify agent. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to do that offline, and I'll show you all the changes, and we'll go from there.